You know, Bill, when I hear the phrase hunting odyssey, I think of someone going on safari in Africa for 3 months or something. Is that what this video series is all about?
Well, Larry, I can answer that question with a definite no and yes. Because while a trip like that is an odyssey in the truest sense of the word, they don't need to be quite that exotic for those of us here at the NAHC to consider them an odyssey. Do you see what I mean?
Well, sort of, Bill, but can you give me an example?
You bet. Here, take a look at any one of these NAHC member photos and tell me what you see.
Hey, okay, simple enough. This is obviously a proud sportsman with a big spring gobbler. Here's a whitetail hunter with a nice buck taken with his muzzle loader. In this photo, I see a couple of hunters and their retriever with a fine brace of pheasants. This picture shows me a...
Whoa, hold it right there. Okay, you're right. That's what those pictures showed you. But what about all of the events that led up to these snapshots being taken? Because every detail of that outing, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant, are what made up their own personal hunting odyssey on that special day.
So in other words, what you're telling me is that any hunt can be considered an odyssey?
That's exactly what I'm telling you. Any day spent afield, whether you harvested any game or not, can qualify for our Hunting Odyssey series if, number 1, you brought along your camcorder. Number 2, you captured something different, unusual, or humorous on videotape. Number 3, you and your hunting buddies had a great time, and finally, you're willing to share it with your fellow NAHC members. Hey, that's a nice buck. About 17 or 18-inch spread and some fairly heavy main beams. But it's still early in the season. I think I'll keep on looking for some more. I think I'll let this one go. Hi, I'm Bill Miller, editor of North American Hunter magazine, and your guide to the informative and exciting Hunting Odyssey video series. And our goal is to put you smack dab in the middle of all that hunting action. And I think we've really succeeded in doing that in this upcoming Hunting Odyssey. First, you'll be journeying out to the Western Plains to join NAHC member Dan Dietrich and guide Mel Dutton on what has to be one of the most exciting antelope hunts you'll ever witness. And then, I get a chance to pick up the rifle and head on out to the hill country of Central California on a thrill-a-minute wild hog hunt. Following that, Will Primos, Ron Jolly, and members of the Primos Pro staff will take you right into the blind with them in eastern Washington State for one of the most incredible displays of goose hunting you'll ever see. After that, we'll have a one-on-one discussion about binoculars, and I'll try to answer some of our NAHC members' most frequently asked questions concerning optics and their use. Then, NAHC member Les Kofed and his friends will take you along with them on one of the most unusual outings we've ever come across. It's a houseboat bighorn sheep expedition out on Arizona's famous Lake Mead, and I'm positive you'll find this segment as unusual and as interesting as I did. Following that, we'll go back in time with a noted historian to learn all about the evolution of the crossbow in earlier times. Then, we'll fast forward the clock to study the dynamics of today's modern, state-of-the-art crossbow and see how once again this ancient hunting tool is gaining in popularity. Next, we'll really turn up the heat, to over 1200 degrees Fahrenheit that is, and show you a way to protect your treasured firearms from the ravages of a typical house fire. Following that, we'll join turkey hunter extraordinaire and NAHC member Brad Harris of Lohman Game Calls on his annual pilgrimage to the Black Hills of South Dakota and Wyoming for, what else? A wild turkey hunt, Western style. And then, NAHC members Lorna and Menno Zacharias from Emerson, Manitoba have got a black bear hunt to share with us that brings back all the emotion of everyone's first successful big game hunt. But first, let's rejoin Mel and Dan as they go over the basics of pronghorn decoying.
Mel, we're out here on the western plains of South Dakota. It's mid-September and we're decoying pronghorn. Tell us a little bit about how you go about doing that.
One brief note before Dan and Mel begin their hunt. When it comes to big game decoying, Mel Dutton is a master. His pioneering work with the whitetail, and especially the pronghorn antelope decoy, have quite literally opened up entire new vistas in big game hunting. So if you're a bow hunter, you'll want to pay close attention to these upcoming words of wisdom.
Large trophy antelope, they try to gather up a harem in early September, and they guard that harem just very dominantly. And if we have a small buck that approaches within a close distance of that buck with his harem, oftentimes they will just drive that little buck for miles. And what we're doing is we're playing into that aggressive sexual behavior. And we try to bring these little portable decoys into the herd or near the herd. And if you set it up and the buck is in the right frame of mind, oftentimes they will just charge right in. And I'll tell you what, that's an adrenaline flow if you've ever had one.
As we've seen, decoying pronghorn is a serious challenge. We're bringing those pronghorn bucks from 200 to 300 yards away, all the way up to 15, 20, even 30 yards away from our decoy. So they're covering a lot of ground. That's the first challenge. The second challenge with decoying pronghorn is delivering your arrow to the vitals of the game animal. To do that effectively out here in these wide open prairies of South Dakota, we need to be sure and have an accurate shooting bow. That's first and foremost. I prefer out here a compound bow with a draw weight of about 70 pounds. Now what I'm trying to accomplish with this bow is to deliver a very flat shooting, fast flying arrow. I'm shooting a 2-inch overdraw, which shortens my arrow shaft by 2 inches, and I'm also shooting with a fairly light broadhead, a 100 grain broadhead. Now a light arrow shaft translates into a faster arrow speed, and a faster arrow speed translates into a flatter trajectory. The advantage there is that when a buck comes in, when we set up the decoy and a buck comes in, what I have to do is determine the distance to that animal. A flat shooting bow, this bow allows me to have just one pin from 0 out to 30 yards. So all I need to do when a buck comes in is determine, is he within that 30 yards? If he is, put the first pin on and release clean. If he's not, I have to decide if he's within 40 yards, because 40 yards is my effective range. If he's beyond 40 yards, I don't bother with him. I just hope that he comes in closer.
Don't come by us. The buck's ours. There he is, Dan. Come on, the thing.
Boy, he's coming hard.
Here he comes. He's coming. He's coming. Okay, get ready. Get ready. Okay, wait. Wait a little bit.
Yeah.
He's coming in.
He's coming close.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Looks like a pretty good hit, doesn't
I
it?
think you got a good one. I think you got him.
Yeah, he's definitely there.
Looks like he won't go far, I don't think, Dan.
Oh,
All right.
man, he gets
Good
it
job.
fast, didn't he?
Good job.
Let's hang tight and see what he does. Yeah, he's definitely
We
going
want to
down.
make sure he'll be down good. Oh, man, that's a trophy.
He came right in 200
Wow,
yards
did you
away.
see the way he came?
Yeah,
across
just
there?
charging.
Man. Oh, was that get the adrenaline pumping or what?
He wasn't far. He was like 35 yards out right here. That's it.
God,
It looked like
dang.
a real good hit, too,
I've
didn't
done
it?
that 100 times and I still get excited.
Boy, he sure is a nice buck. I mean, he probably measures, what, 12 or 13 inches? Is that what you'd say?
Oh yeah, he's 13. Look at here, he's even got little ivory
Ivory
tips
tips.
on the end.
What causes that? Just age?
Yeah, he's probably about 3 years old. They've got to be a pretty mature buck to hold together a harem of does, and he had at least 10 or 12 with him. But he's definitely a candidate for the book. More importantly than that, though, you just harvested one of the most beautiful game animals on this continent, Dan.
Thanks to you.
Congratulations.
Thanks, Mel.
Wasn't that a great story? It made you feel like you were right there, didn't it? But to decoy any type of game successfully requires skill, patience, practice, and a high degree of safety. In fact, I can't stress highly enough the safety factor when using big game decoys like deer, and especially when using turkey decoys. As for big game decoys like this white-tailed deer, never, under any circumstances, should they be used during the firearms season. They are meant to be used for bow hunting only. And secondly, never transport them to or from the field fully assembled in plain sight. As for turkey hunting, I highly recommend that you follow these guidelines set forth by Flambeau Decoys. The following are some safety tips to remember. Number 1, always set up your decoys in open areas. not only for better visibility of the gobbler, but so you can see any approaching hunters as well. Number 2, set your decoys at least 15 to 20 yards away from you, and preferably not in a direct line from where you believe the tom will approach. Number 3, your best choice for a blind or hunting location is to be seated at the base of a tree which is wider than your shoulders. This will not only provide better concealment for you from the turkeys, but from any hunters approaching from behind you as well. Number 4, if you're hunting on public lands, don't set up a decoy between your blind and an area of hunter access, such as a parking lot or logging road. Number 5, be very cautious when using a gobbler call in conjunction with your decoy on heavily hunted lands. Number 6, always transport your decoys out of sight, both when entering and leaving a field. Either conceal it in your pocket or carry it in a camo or blaze orange bag. And finally, number 7, avoid any type of clothing or material that has red, white, or blue on it, as those are the main colors of a tom turkey's head. Now if you're ready, let's head all the way across the country, out to California, to pursue one of my favorite big game animals. I'll be joining guide Randy Bernard of the Paris Valley Preserve on a thrilling wild hog hunt. Come and join us.
How you doing, Bill? You got your walking shoes on?
Sure do, I'm ready to go.
Well, we're going to put in some serious walking this afternoon while it's hot. First thing we're going to do is we're going to go up here in the foothills and we're going to look in some big caves. Hopefully we'll see some pigs laying in there, or we'll at least show you some big beds. After that, we're going to go up a little bit higher in elevation and check some north slopes out where all the oak trees are. Under those oak trees, the acorns are starting to fall. They'll be bedding up in there, and we'll try to push something out to you. We'll put you at the end, and I'll walk down through there for you.
Well, Randy, I know that hogs can be tough to find in the heat of the day. What if we don't come across any this afternoon?
Well, Bill, if we don't get one this afternoon, the first thing we'll do tomorrow morning, we'll get up about half an hour before sunrise, get up there in a spot overlooking the entire valley, and watch those draws and see if we can see any pigs moving through them. Once we have spotted them, then we'll move very rapidly to a spot where we could sit down. I'll place you on a certain spot and have you sit there and let the pigs come to us.
Sounds good. Let's go see what we can do.
Hey, let's go.
This is the kind of place hogs would lay up during the heat of the day.
Yeah, it's right here. Would be a good spot since there's some vegetables right over the hill from them.
I imagine it's pretty hard to spot them in here, though, with all the shadows and stuff.
Yeah. See these oyster shells here, Bill? These are all types of different seashells.
Oh, yeah.
When I was a kid, I used to come up here and take bucket loads of them to school for show and tell.
God, it's amazing. You know, we're several hundred feet above the valley floor here, and you still got seashells.
Yeah, it's pretty neat.
It's a pretty big boar to rub that high up on a tree. Even left a few hairs behind for a souvenir for us. You need to be in shape for hog hunting in California. There's a lot of climbing the steep hills and hot, dry hiking along the ridge tops and through the oak-covered hillsides. Wild hogs, or wild boar, are getting to be incredibly popular game animals in the southeast and southwestern United States. In fact, in some states like Texas and California, they're beginning to take as many or more hogs than they do deer each year. We're hunting in the hills of west central California, about halfway between King City and Paso Robles, and in the heart of an area known as the Pig Triangle. The area is situated in the Salinas Valley, sometimes called the salad bowl of the world. And let me tell you, these hogs know all about that salad. They travel down from the hills at night to dine on the things we dine on: carrots, peppers, tomatoes, lettuces, anything they can forage in the farm fields of the valley. And then in the morning, they move back through the rugged country to their oak-covered bedding areas. Let's get up here with this sun up. we should be able to see real good, and I think we'll be able to intercept them here. Randy, is this where those hogs should cross that we spotted a ways back?
Yeah, we seen them down there about 4 miles. Those pigs were coming down from the carrot fields. I bet it was probably a 7-mile little jog for them. And when we seen them, they were just starting up this point. What they're gonna do is they'll come right up this ridge, and they'll peek over, they'll crest over right up here on this skyline right here, and you'll have a really good shot at them right down here at the bottom.
Yeah, that's what I want to do, is wait till we get right down in the bottom.
How's the wind?
Check it. We should be okay.
Perfect. They shouldn't pick up our scents at all.
Bill.
There they go, right there. Here they come right here.
I see them. I see them.
There they are right there, to the right.
They're coming straight down that trail.
Two nice boars coming right to us. The front one's got some really nice teeth on him. Oh, they just picked up our scent. You see it?
Yeah.
They just stopped.
They're switching positions.
Yeah.
Here they come again.
Oh, they picked it up again. They can't find us. They're still looking for us.
I'm gonna wait till I get right in the bottom.
Okay. They can't find us. They're trying to get a real steady flow of that scent. They can't do it.
Here they come again.
Oh, they stopped again. They're looking.
I'm gonna wait till I get right in the bottom, though.
Okay. Here they go.
They're coming right at us.
Get him, you got him.
Get him. Got him. Whew.
That's too close.
You're not kidding. Let's ease up there.
You got one in the chamber, Bill?
You bet. Let's get up here and come in from behind him. Man, I can't believe how tough these things are.
And he was coming right at us. You're starting to worry me a little bit.
Me too. Oh, I think he's done.
Yeah. Look at him. He is
Oh,
nice.
he's a nice one. What do you think he'll weigh?
He'll weigh 250, 260.
Oh, he should be good eating.
Look at those tusks. Are those nice?
Yeah.
That is a
Ah, he's
beauty.
a good one.
He has a lot of Russian in him. Yeah, did you see his hair standing up on his back when he was coming at us?
You bet I saw it.
He was worrying me. I was thinking, how many bolts is it going to take to drop this baby?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, they aren't pretty, but there sure isn't anything as exciting as hunting wild hogs.
He's definitely a trophy.
Now, while I can't say for certain these hogs were coming after us, I can tell you I sure was happy that my second shot found its mark. And I really think you'll find this next segment hits the mark as well. We'll be traveling up the west coast to Washington State, where Will Primos, Ron Jolly, and the Primos Pro staff have gathered together for some of the finest, fastest goose hunting you'll ever see.
Dang!
Yes, sir.
Mr. Paul,
Yes, sir.
you are a goose man. That is all there is to it.
Awesome, huh? Awesome, awesome.
I have never seen him decoy like that.
You get it right, they come
That's
right
it. That's the limit.
Just gotta have it right.
That's the limit.
Get up, Will. No time to shoot, man. Come on.
I got him.
Gotta take him now. Hope you got that on video.
All right, yes. Whoa.
Great calling.
Hey, Joey, see this single right out here?
Mhm.
See that single right there?
There are two right there.
That one right there.
Oh, yeah. Okay,
That one
got
right
it.
there. You walking? You guys ready?
Yep.
Make sure that gun's low. Right over, right over, and I bet you 3 times. Gotta
My
aim that.
hero.
That gun always comes up and you're looking at the gun.
That's one way to have plenty of action. To make your limit spread thin.
Now, did we get that on video?
I got it.
Yeah.
Down, they're coming back, they're coming back. Come on, Jim. Shoot.
What kind of geese are they?
Multi types.
And them. Paul, what were some of the geese we were shooting here?
Well, we have 6 different subspecies that we get on regular occasions here, starting with the greater Maxim.
Hand me that big old
Mason
joke over
honker.
there. Yeah, look at that. Oh, isn't that is gorgeous.
That is right
I
near
think
the
that's
biggest.
the one Jolly got.
There you go.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, beautiful.
That's one of the biggest of the subspecies we get. We get a Hutchins, but I don't see any here today. That's the one we normally get some days. Next down the line would be a true lesser. There's a true lesser.
Okay.
And
A true lesson.
we got a Tavener.
A taverner.
There's a Tavener.
Taverner?
Taverners, I always thought people sat on bar stools all the time.
And there's a Richardson.
All right.
So out of our bag today, what do we got? 5 different subspecies there?
5 out of 6 ain't bad.
That's right.
You know, quite often I hear people talk about the good old days of hunting. But in my mind, at least as far as goose hunting goes, the good old days are right now. And with the goose population skyrocketing around major metropolitan areas, state wildlife officials have adopted special seasons and generous bag limits to reduce their numbers, all of which adds up to great shooting close to home. So get out there and give it a shot. Ask any hunter what he considers his most important piece of equipment next to his gun or his bow, and you may get one of a dozen different answers. But talk to a serious hunter, and I'll bet I can tell you what he'll say is binoculars. Because without a good pair of binoculars, some types of hunting would be nearly impossible, and it definitely wouldn't be as enjoyable. But what are the ingredients, if you will, that make up a good set of binoculars? And with dozens of sizes, styles, and magnifications available, which ones are right for you? Well, I can't answer that question. Only you can, depending on how you plan to use them. But at least, after you listen to all of the binocular basics I'm about to share with you, you'll be armed with all of the information you need to make the intelligent decision.
Now, that's it, you got them!
There really are only a few basic principles of binocular design. A binocular's shape and size and the specification numbers provide basic information. Here are two types of binocular shapes or designs: poroprism binoculars and roof prism binoculars. See the difference? Poroprism models, like these, have objective lenses that are offset from their eyepieces. In roof prism binoculars, the objective lenses and the eyepieces are in a straight line, resulting in a more compact and lightweight design. Prisms simply act like mirrors within binoculars, folding the light path to make the instrument shorter. They also erect the images formed by the objective lens, which would otherwise be upside down and backwards. The most popular binoculars feature magnifications from 7 to 10 power. Here, the 7 indicates the power, which means that objects viewed will look 7 times closer than when seen by the naked eye. The number next to the 7th power, 35 on this set of binoculars, represents the diameter expressed in millimeters of the objective lenses. These are the lenses furthest away from the eyes. They gather light coming from an object being viewed. Contrary to common belief, objective lens diameter has nothing to do with the binocular's magnification or its field of view. Larger objective lenses do gather more light and make objects appear brighter. After passing through the prism system, light emerges from the eyepiece. This shaft of light, called the exit pupil, can be seen with the binocular held at arm's length and pointed at a light source. To compute exit pupil diameter, divide the diameter of the objective lens by the magnification. For example, this 7 by 35 binocular has a 5 mm exit pupil. 35 mm divided by 7 equals 5 mm. Another example is this 8 by 24 compact binoculars, which has a 3 mm exit pupil. Now here's the catch. For your eyes to get all the available light they can use, a binocular's exit pupil should be at least as large as the pupil of your eyes under the current light conditions. The pupils of the average person's eyes vary in size from about 2 mm in very bright light to 7 mm in total darkness. This means that the binoculars, when used in low light, should have large exit pupils. 5 mm exit pupils perform better at dawn and dusk, and 7 mm are best for night use. Before I move on, there are certain trade-offs in selecting higher magnifications. There's a natural tendency for people to think that if 7 power is good, 10 power is better, but that's not entirely true. In choosing higher magnifications, image shake caused by a slight hand quiver can be a problem. Image shake starts at about 10 power and becomes progressively worse as magnification increases. Plus, at higher magnification, the binocular's field of view is reduced. Field of view is simply the width of the viewing area as seen from 1,000 yards. Usually this is expressed in feet. For example, this 7 by 35 shows 487 feet at 1,000 yards, while the 10 by 50 shows 341 feet at 1,000 yards. Sometimes the field of view is expressed in degrees. 1 degree equals 52.4 feet at 1,000 yards. A 10-degree instrument has a field of view of 524 feet. Eye relief is defined as the distance from the eyepiece to the point where the eye can see the full field of view. Eyeglass wearers require longer eye relief, 15 millimeters or greater, to avoid tunnel vision and to compensate for the extra space needed between the eyepiece, the glasses, and the eyes. For hunters, a major decision arises when choosing between full-size and compact designs. Compacts, which usually weigh less and have smaller objective lenses, are convenient to carry and surprisingly functional. When size and weight are the prime considerations, a compact is a great choice. The primary disadvantage is that small objective lenses don't gather much light. Full-size binoculars have larger objective lenses, which make them brighter. These are the best choice when maximum brightness is needed in low-light conditions, such as when scouting at dawn or dusk. Another important factor in choosing binoculars is whether or not to buy more expensive ones with special lens coatings. With uncoated lenses, as much as 50% of the light that enters the optical system is lost through absorption and reflection. To maximize light transmission, a special anti-reflective coating, such as magnesium fluoride, is applied to the glass surfaces, thus allowing more light to pass through the lenses. Such multi-layered anti-reflection coatings dramatically improve the performance of the binoculars. Many binoculars are made waterproof by using O-ring seals to prevent outside air, moisture, and dust from entering the instrument. Binoculars are fog-proof when the internal barrels have been nitrogen purged to remove any traces of internal moisture. Rubber armoring protects the binoculars from bumps and scratches. As a rule, a binocular isn't waterproof or fog-proof unless the manufacturer specifically states that in the sales literature. You know, that was a lot of information packed into a short space. But if you'll take the time to review the tape a couple of times, you can gather all the information you'll need to make an informed decision when you head out to the sporting goods store to buy your next set of binoculars. And now, I want to take you on a hunt that's an honest-to-goodness new one for me. When the tape arrived from NAHC member Les Kofed of Sparks, Nevada, the cover was marked Houseboat Sheep. Well, that in itself was enough to grab our attention. And then as we began to watch the video, everyone agreed that this was one hunt we'd all like to go on. I figured you would as well. So come on, jump on the boat and let's go bighorn sheep hunting on Arizona's spectacular Lake Mead. Boy, you talk about being able to cover some ground. Even at a snail's pace, Les, Rob, Bruce, and George could easily glass more ground in an hour than a hunter on foot could cover all day. And being on that houseboat, operating out of their floating base camp, gave them the freedom to explore new areas every day. So if the sheep were spread thin, or even non-existent in one area, all they had to do was crank up the engine and head for greener pastures. Finally, after days of scouting and some minor mechanical breakdowns, which only added to the adventure, Rob Kofed spotted the bighorn he was looking for, and now the hunt began in earnest. How's he looking through there?
He's about him yet. I don't think.
Now, he's a decent friend.
He's big at the base.
Not as big as mine be, but he's a pretty good size.
Trying to sneak up on this big ram we saw from the beach. He should be right over the hill here. I'll get down there with him, but I don't want to spook him. He must be getting close. Hope the son of a gun hasn't run away on us. Good show! Way to go, guys!
Down! Good deal! All right, handshake, buddy? Yeah!
That's a beautiful full coral sheep Rob took there. One any hunter would be proud of.
We walked 27 miles for that dirty son of a gun.
Love it!
Love it, love it.
It's also a testament to the Arizona Department of Fish and Game. Through years of research, population transplanting, scientific study, and most importantly, habitat restoration, the desert bighorn has once again been returned to a large portion of its former range here in the Grand Canyon State. It's a long way from Arizona to Toronto, Canada, but that's where we're headed next. Then we'll have a chance to talk to historian K. Corey Keeble about the developments of one of man's most interesting hunting instruments, the crossbow. And then former U.S. national champions Bill and Catherine Trowbridge and past president of the National Crossbow Hunters Association, Dan Miller, will walk you through the basics of comparing, choosing, practicing, and finally hunting with today's modern crossbow.
Historically, the crossbow has been used both for military purposes and for hunting almost through the entirety of its existence. Interesting point, the crossbow in Europe began to become obsolescent by the 1400s, early 1500s. This relates very much to the development of firearms at the same time. The military crossbow, the crossbow as a weapon for use in war, was virtually obsolete by the early 16th century. Now, this is an important point because, in fact, the development of sporting crossbows continued. In fact, the golden age of the sporting crossbow historically in Europe was probably the period of the 15th and 16th centuries. The bow that I'm holding in my hand, probably 17th or 18th century type, is decorated. And this was true of all of the great crossbows of the period from about the 1400s, early 1500s onward. The crossbow, in fact, never really went out of use, although crossbows in Europe were increasingly threatened by the development of finer quality firearms through the 1600s, 1700s, and 1800s. Crossbow, in fact, never really disappeared. And not only did the crossbow not go out of use, crossbows were still used for target purposes. They were still retained as hunting weapons in the 19th century. But in the 20th century, we have seen a major renaissance, a major revival of the crossbow, basically the hunting crossbow.
Now, a crossbow is made up of three basic parts. There's the limb system, a trigger system, and a stock. Now, when people look at a crossbow, the first thing they think is that what it says on the limbs, the power that the limbs have, is exactly how fast the bow is going to shoot. Now, that's not necessarily so. You've got to look at how far the string travels. The further the string travels when you shoot the arrow, the faster the arrow is going to go, and the faster the arrow goes, the harder it will hit and the flatter the trajectory is going to be. That flat trajectory is going to make it so you don't have to compensate so much for the drop of the bow at longer ranges and make it easier for you to hit what you're shooting at. Now, the trigger mechanism's job is to hold the string at rest until you pull the trigger, at which time it releases it and the string travels forward, propelling the arrow. Now, the problem with the trigger mechanism is all of that strength in the limbs is holding that trigger lock together. The sear contacts are held together with a tremendous amount of friction. And when you go to pull the trigger, that friction makes it so the trigger pull is very tough. Make sure when you buy a crossbow that the trigger mechanism is capable of giving a light, crisp release. because if it isn't, it's going to negatively affect the accuracy that you're capable of getting with your bow.
Now, someone not knowing what they're doing, put their foot in the stirrup and just yank back on the string, and that just don't get it. You want to make sure your foot is firmly in the stirrup. If that crossbow slips off of your foot while you're cocking it, you could end up with a broken collarbone, broken jaw, singing soprano in the Vienna Boys Choir, or even worse. We don't want that to happen. I can show you here what happens when a crossbow is cocked incorrectly. The guy reaches down, grabs the string, pulls it back, latches it, and you can see that you can only see one mark. So it's out of center big time.
I'm going to demonstrate to you now what happens when you shoot an arrow when you cock it off center. I've cocked it off about 1/4 inch to my left. And when I go to shoot, I'm going to aim at the center just as if I had cocked it straight, and we'll see what happens. As you can see, I shot off to the left. It looks like it's about 6 to 7 inches to the left. If I was cocking the bow to the right, the same distance, I would end up shooting 6 to 7 inches to the right. So make sure every time you cock that crossbow, it's pulled back straight, and these little dots sure help you do that. One thing you have to remember when you're shooting a hunting crossbow is the moment you pull that trigger, that arrow's going to drop. And when you're shooting out at 0 to 20 yards, your bow will shoot virtually flat. However, it'll drop 6 inches if you shoot around 30 yards, and at 40 yards, it can drop up to 24 inches. And if you did shoot at 60 yards, it could drop up to 5 or 6 feet. And we really recommend that when you're hunting, never take a shot past 40 yards because it's really tough to judge the drop of your arrow at that point.
Now, if an animal is quartered towards you, you don't want to have it quartered any further forward than you can hit it behind the leg bones and still get the arrow into its lungs or heart. If it's too far forward, you're going to be shooting through too much bone, and there's a good chance you'll get a deflection there. And that's not going to cause a killing shot. You'll get a wounded animal. Nobody likes that. So if it's quartered to you, maybe you're best to let it go. Try for another day. Quartered away is an ideal shot. But remember, you're not shooting at the outside of the deer's chest. You're shooting at the inside. You want to pass the arrow through the center of its chest. So once again, about 1/3 of the way up the chest, and always aim to hit the front leg on the far side as it quarters away from you. If you're shooting from a tree stand, there's a good chance that you're going to have the animal quite close. As it gets closer, remember, we're trying to go through the center of the chest. Aim higher and higher on the chest until you get up to about here. Once you're in this position, you're getting too close to the spine. All right, we picked up off a stand early. Because of the fog tonight, we couldn't see very well, so we were on our way out. As we crested this hill, we looked over and we could see the top of the antlers on this buck. We crouched down and hit him a couple of times with a grunt call. Now he turned and he come in and he hung up at about 40 yards. And I was sitting here watching him. And then he hung up for a long time and he started to walk. And then he stopped at 30, but he was quartered to me and I was afraid to shoot. Finally, he turned broadside. When he turned broadside, I put my 30-yard post on him and slapped the trigger. Now the shot sounded really good, but we're not sure, so we gave him 2 hours. It's been 2 hours since we fired this shot. And now we're going to go over and start looking for the arrow so we can be sure where he's hit. Hey, that's what we're looking for. Looks like he stopped for a little bit. Looks like he stopped. Okay, where'd he go from here? There's blood there. It looks like he slowed to a walk now. He's bleeding a lot heavier. Oh man, there he is. Oh, that's great. All right, look at that deer. I was sweating, man. I didn't think I was going to get this one. Look at the size of him. That's a big Ontario whitetail. He must be 250 pounds. Oh man, look at the size of that deer.
As the popularity of the crossbow continues to increase by leaps and bounds, I feel it's only a matter of time before more states begin to allow the use of crossbows during the normal hunting seasons. But as for now, check your state's regulations concerning the use of crossbows and then give them a shot. Next to your hunting dog, your hunting firearms are probably some of your most treasured possessions. And to lose either one to fire or theft is something we don't even like to think about. And that's precisely why the folks at Browning developed their line of Pro Steel fire safes, so you'd never have to think about the protection of your guns again. Watch this and you'll see what I mean. How hot does it get in the average house fire? Hot. Very, very hot. About 1,200 degrees hot. The average house fire is hot enough to blister and destroy every square inch of paint on your gun safe. It's hot enough to cause this solid steel surface to glow red. It's hot enough to melt the handle and dial right off the door. Yet, with most so-called safes, you will not know if your guns or valuables have been protected until you pry the door open. You need more assurance than that, and that's why Browning has introduced a line of safes utilizing the most advanced fire safety resistant design concepts. To prove it, they took their new fire safe design to one of the nation's leading independent testing facilities, Omega Point Laboratories in San Antonio, Texas. This is the story of that rare test and its results. The safe and its contents are prepared for the test by attaching temperature measuring thermocouples. Measuring instruments were attached to different portions of the shotgun to consistently measure the differences in temperature in the stock, barrel, and receiver. Other devices were placed in the middle of the safe against the top and bottom and on the door. Loosely crumpled newspaper was placed on every level of the safe. Newspaper is extremely flammable. If newsprint can survive the test, you can be sure your important documents will be safe. A special enclosure was built over the gas-fired testing oven so that the safe was completely surrounded by firing gases. The safe was lowered into the chamber and the sides were raised to the height of the safe. A full lid was fitted into position. The lid was important in simulating the intense heat of a house fire. Only a few access ports were left open for viewing the test. With all testing equipment operating, everything was ready. Gases turned on in the chamber were ignited. The test clock began. Soon the external thermocouples registered 1,200 degrees. The typical house fire lasts for about 30 minutes and stays at around 1,200 degrees. This was exactly what the safe was subjected to. As the safe surface heated up, the paint began to boil. Large pieces melted and were consumed. The outside steel turned red hot and was well over 1,200 degrees on every surface. Soon, the handle and dial showed the effects. The alloy ring dial succumbed and fell to the floor of the chamber. The Omega Point technicians were continually monitoring the temperatures both outside and inside the safe at each thermocouple. More than 30 minutes have passed and the gas supplied to the furnace was turned off. It was evident that the outside of the safe was totally destroyed. Any safe would look this way or worse after a fire of this intensity. The safe was ruined, but what happened to the contents inside is what mattered. What you see now is what you want to see if you ever experience a house fire. Your valuable guns and important documents all in one piece and in perfect working order. And so if your guns mean as much to you as mine do to me, maybe you want to check out the added protection that a certified fire safe can offer. Now it's time to grab a shotgun and a box of copper-coated 6s and join turkey hunting legend Brad Harris of Loman Game Calls.
After a lengthy duel, the hens finally pulled the gobbler away from our calling. We knew we were in for a long, tough hunt if we were going to get a chance at him. Our plan was to stay close and hope his hens would leave him. Hurrying after his 2 remaining hens, the gobbler heads towards the timber as we make our final move to close the distance. You did a great job with a box call, and I kind of coaxed him a little with a slate. It just doesn't get any better than this.
No,
it really doesn't.
Beautiful.
Well, I tell you that, the only difference I see in your turkeys and ours back home is your turkeys gobble a lot different. Our turkeys, boy, when they gobble, they just shake you off the ground, and these here, it seems like a softer gobble. I know we tease you about it a lot, but you hear this, oh, bloop, 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 bloop. And you don't know whether it's a big turkey or a little turkey, but by golly, it's a big turkey, and this is super.
How many of you remember your first big game harvest? I know I do. I'll never forget it. And you're about ready to watch all of those same emotions come to a boil as NAHC member Menno Zacharias captures his wife Lorna's first black bear kill on videotape. You're going to enjoy this. Lorna wasn't sure what it was that spooked the bear, Maybe it was one of the dozen or so squirrels that were feeding from the bait station. But it really didn't matter. Her dejected look summed it all up. But just a minute later, the bear reappeared, and once again the adrenaline started flowing.
Just put the headlights on. We'll see if they work out any better or not. Not sure if you can see him properly.
He's a bear.
It's a black bear. If you see black, you see bear.
Yeah. My legs were shaking a little bit before I shot, but I was still pretty calm. I was doing good. I got it, so I must have done good. And I did it myself.
That you did, Lorna. And thanks to your husband's fine camera work, you'll be able to relive the excitement of that great trip anytime you want. And that's exactly why we produce the North American Hunting Club Hunting Odyssey video series, so our fellow NAHC members can share in the excitement of each other's hunting adventures. In closing, I'd like to thank NAHC member Menno Zacharias and his wife Lorna for sharing that extraordinary bear hunt with us. And a special thanks goes out to turkey hunters Chris Yeoman and Brad Harris of Loman Game Calls as well for taking us out to the Black Hills with them. To Brown & Company for supplying us with that interesting footage of their new fire safes. A big thank you also goes out to Dan Miller, Kay Corey Keeble, Bill and Catherine Trowbridge of Excalibur Crossbows for filling us in on their crossbows, past and present. To our now famous houseboat hunters, Les and Rob Kofed, for our sincere thanks as well. I'd also like to thank Bausch & Lomb for their assistance in producing our Binocular Basics segment. And of course to Will Primos, Ron Jolly, and the wonderful folks at Primos Calls goes a hearty handshake as well. They're a fine bunch of people who really know their business. And to my friend Randy Bernard of the Paris Valley Preserve out in California goes my appreciation for that terrific wild hog hunt. And to Mel Dutton and Dan Dietrich goes the Nerves of Steel Award for bringing in those antelope within bow range. That was a super hunt, guys. But most importantly, I'd like to thank all of you once again for taking the time out of your busy lives to invite me and your fellow NAHC members into your living room. Until next time, take care and good hunting.